a little past 8 o'clock, time to go over the agenda for today's meeting. Mr. Camardi, you gonna take care of the invocation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Pate, the pledge.
I'll do it.
Any discussion or adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, we've got three changes. One is we have a jail budget amendment. Do you want to go over that now, or do you want to go over that at the amendments?
I'd say go with the amendments.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just wait till the amendments, okay. The second thing is on farm leases. As y'all know, we had two pieces of property that we got a no bid on, and we want to go back out on those. We've had interest expressed. We're not doing it cold. We only wanted to do it because we've had interest expressed in those. So Marcia is handing that out to you now, and these are the two. And the starting bid amounts are lower than where we were before. So we feel like this will be a good move. And these two would have the same term as the others for 3 years, starting January 1. So in the future, they'll all still come for renewal at the same period of point in time.
Okay, the budget amendment, we'll go with the budget amendments. Where do you want to put the land lease?
The farm lease, I guess, should be probably unfinished business because we've done all the others already. So we could make that number 3 under unfinished business.
Mr. Chairman, question.
Yes, sir.
And the contracts will be the same as the other,
Yeah, yes, they'll be identical.
no difference? Okay, just right. I figured it would be, just wanted to
That's
be sure.
right, that's right.
Could I,
And, yeah, go ahead.
December 4th or 2nd?
For what, the meeting?
Auction.
Oh, it's December 4th. Isn't it? That's what it says on here.
Well,
Is that?
it doesn't match Tuesday, what I'm
Should
trying
be
to say.
second. Should be.
Oh, the second?
Yeah.
Okay. What did the ad say?
I haven't put it out yet because we're.
Okay, all right, well then we'll make it the
Or
second.
it could be Thursday or 4th, it don't matter.
It's gonna be on the second?
Yeah, I agree. The
Just
day,
to match.
the day and the date need to match, yeah, okay.
You said the second?
Second, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, in the morning, yeah. Yeah, this is at 3 o'clock.
Okay, and the third item is we do have a closed session. We'll need that to discuss some property acquisition.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Are you gonna need some action on this farm lease that we authorize it, or?
Yes, yes, that's why I'm adding it, just so
Okay.
you can authorize that.
So you need a motion on that. Okay, thank you.
And the other thing Marcia's handing out is that you have under unfinished business number 2, motion to approve the dissolution agreement with Pinewood Volunteer Fire Department. Borden has drafted a possible motion for someone to introduce, which we think covers everything we need to do on that.
I'll read that one when it,
Okay. And then, okay, and we'll handle the jail budget amendment at that time under budget amendments. So those are the 3 changes that we have, Mr. Chairman.
okay. Anyone else have any additions to the agenda they need to add?
Could I get some further information on this motion here?
Yeah.
I understand you to say that we would actually be taking all of their tangible personal property and auctioning it,
And what?
and having an auction?
Mm,
Auction, the Rollins, what the fire department.
But it will be offered to departments in Wayne County first.
Kind of like the farm auction. Except it'll-
When you say you're gonna be offering it first to our other volunteer fire
Is
departments?
that not correct?
Yes, that's right.
So you're gonna offer it to them, and if they make a reasonable offer, then we're
You're gonna have it appraised.
gonna have it appraised.
Right. And we'll do pretty much like the farm leases. You'll have it appraised. I mean, we already knew what the values were from previous years on that, but we'd have it appraised. We'd schedule an auction for our fire department, so there's only 26 of them. We notify them, and then they can come and bid on the equipment if they want it. They can go look at it prior to, see if that's what they want, because we'll be inventorying everything after we take it over.
All right, and if there's anything left over from that auction, and then you're gonna move on to auction it to the general public?
That's right.
Is that correct?
That's right, or we can put it on Gov Deals, because there'll be other departments across
Okay.
the state or whatever that would want it. But
Okay,
we
I
want to
ju-
make first offer to our own people.
Okay.
I assume the auction's gonna take place at the Pinewood site.
Probably, yeah, so everybody can see the stuff, yeah.
And see moving it around.
Right.
anywhere, yeah.
Well, Marcia's so experienced now, we'll have her do that.
Y'all gonna make me get my auctioneer's license?
That's right.
Yeah, we wanna see a chant, next time.
I saw when, the chairman was at the library, at the farm, seminar, that the gentleman who was the auctioneer, I forgot his name,
Mr. Beeman.
Mr. Beamer, yeah, he was going so fast I couldn't keep up with him.
He was a tobacco auctioneer, so they moved kinda quick.
Yeah.
Any other additions or comments before we move on? Mr. Wood, why don't you take over now and go over the rest of it?
Okay.
Special recognition.
We'll have the special recognition. Jeff Sparrow has been awarded the Solid Waste Enforcement Officer of the Year Award, and so we wanted to recognize him, and Tim Rogers and Jeff will be here today on that. The appointment committee, I'm not sure if there's any appointments there.
Mr. Gurney.
Yes, there will be.
Okay. Unfinished business, we have the discussion and possible motion to approve the schematic design by Mosley Architects for the misdemeanor jail. We had a good meeting yesterday with them from 3 to 5. They'll be here starting at 9, and we've tried to schedule them as early in the meeting as we could because, of course, they're from Charlotte. They came in late yesterday. We had a meeting yesterday, then we'll have the meeting this morning, then obviously they need to get back to Charlotte. So the only thing in front of them really is Jeff. Then we have the motion to approve the dissolution agreement with Pinewood Volunteer Fire Department, Inc. We just discussed that. A motion to approve us going out for auction on these 2 farm leases that we just added. On the consent agenda, unless any of you wants to take these off, we have a petition for the addition to the state maintenance system of Crosswinds Drive and Windy Field Drive, and you have that information in your packet. Also in your packet are applications for 2014 property tax exclusion, elderly or disabled exclusion, and disabled veteran exclusions, and you have the memos from Alan Lumpkin on those. The next thing is to establish a public hearing on December 2nd at 9:15 to receive public comments on the proposed emergency services cost recovery ordinance for the county of Wayne, North Carolina. So all you're doing today is scheduling a public hearing on it, but we did go ahead and put the ordinance in your packet so you can be reviewing that, and we can discuss that at that point. Establish a public hearing on December 2nd at 9:15 to receive public comments on rezoning property for Eastern Carolina State Veterans Cemetery, and Connie can address that. But basically, we just need to rezone that property.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
this, under the consent agenda, so the only question I have on that is, we just have found out that that property was not zoned to allow for the cemetery? Am I understanding that correct?
Part of it.
Part of it's zoned correctly, part of it's not. However, the part that we'll build on now is not.
Okay, all right, well, we definitely need to have that on the consent
Yeah,
agenda. We need
That's
to
right,
resolve
and
that.
just move forward with that one.
All right.
Number 7 is establish a public hearing on December 16th to receive public comments on rezoning property bounded by Highway 111 South and Old Highway 111. Ed Cotty will be here to address that as well. But that's for a meeting a month away. Then the only other thing we have is budget amendments, which Ms. Holt will go over, and then the usual public comments, the manager and board's comments, and then a closed session. And just to remind everybody, we need to leave here at 11:30 for lunch and the library program presentation down at Steele Memorial Library. So I think we can be through with that. And in the interest of time, Mr. Chairman, I was going to suggest whenever we finish going over this, if we could go ahead and do our closed session between 8 and 9, I think we could get that out of the way.
Okay. Has anyone else got anything? If not, we'll go into closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I move we go into closed session. For?
To consult with an attorney, reserve attorney-client privilege, to discuss location or expansion of business or industries in Wayne County, and to instruct your staff on acquisition of property, the terms of that acquisition.
I have a motion that we go into closed session in discussion. If not, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous. It's 9 o'clock, time to conduct the business of the Wayne County Board of Commissioners. Mr. Camardi, if you would, first of all, if anyone has their cell phones or pagers, please put them on, either cut them off or put them on vibrate. Mr. Camardi, if you would, handle the invocation, please.
Mr. Chairman, with a lot of pleasure this morning, I would like to introduce a good friend of mine that's going to do the invocation, Mr. Charlie M. Holloway, former member of the Wayne County Planning Board, and also a deacon at Stanley Chapel Church, of which we're closely affiliated in. And so I'd like to introduce Mr. Holloway. Come forward to the invocation.
Good morning.
First of all, Brother Father, I want to thank you for your son Jesus, who died on Calvary's cross so that the world could be saved. Thank you, Father, for waking us up this morning to another day that we've seen before. Thank you for blessing this nation, Almighty Father. And I stand, Almighty Father, to issue a special prayer to the commissioners of Wayne County, Almighty Father, that they may carry out the business of the people in a decent manner, Almighty Father. Thank you for the things that have been done in the past and the things that they're going to do in the future. This is my prayer in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen. Please rise, face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Camardi. Mr. Pate. Mr. Wood, any adjustments to or discussion of today's agenda?
Yes, sir. We had three things. One is we have a jail budget amendment, which Ms. Holt will go over with you under the budget amendments. We also want to add farm leases. We'd like you to authorize us to go back out on auction for the Bryan Boulevard property and the Battle of Goldsboro Bridge site. As you recall, those two, we did not get any bids the previous time, but we've had communications from some folks who are interested in bidding on those. So we're asking that you authorize us to go back out for farm leases on that. And I believe that Noel has given you an amended sheet. The date is actually December 9th at 3 p.m. is when we're recommending the auction. And that's all the changes I had.
Anyone else have any adjustments they need to bring up? Do I have a motion that we approve the minutes of the November 5th, 2014? Have a motion on the floor from Mr. Bell. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous. Special recognition.
Mr. Chairman, if we could, I'd like to call on Tim Rogers for that.
The board will come down.
We need to do that.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for allowing us to make this presentation before the board this morning. The Solid Waste Department has an employee, Mr. Jeff Sparrow, behind me here. He was chosen for an award from the North Carolina Solid Waste Enforcement Association, and we're very excited about it. Jeff takes his job very seriously and is very involved in our department, as well as the Enforcement Association. Jeff works hard with other counties to try to find solutions for some of the issues that we're facing with code enforcement issues. If you're not in the solid waste industry, you're probably not familiar with this award, so I thought I'd give you a little bit of history of the association, given the award and the award itself. The North Carolina Solid Waste Association is a nonprofit association comprised of solid waste specialists, administrators, environmental health technicians, and code enforcement officers. It is the mission of the association to help members forward their knowledge and expertise in the disciplines of solid waste management. Each year, the association's executive committee selects an outstanding professional from the membership to receive the Stillwell Enforcement of the Year Award for outstanding service to his or her community. This award, dubbed the Mike Stillwell Award, was born out of a collective appreciation of one of the association's founding members, Mike Stillwell, who served as code enforcement officer for Mecklenburg County. Mike is remembered for providing outstanding service to his community and was a model public servant who had the ability to navigate complex compliance issues with tact and good humor. In an effort to acknowledge Mike's contribution to public service and to recognize the members who exemplify the traits, skills, and knowledge that were demonstrated by Mr. Stillwell, we present this Outstanding Service Award annually. This year, 4 finalists were chosen from the many applications the association received for recognition. Of the 4 finalists, one was selected to receive the Stillwell Award. The 2014 Mike Stillwell Enforcement of the Year Award was presented to our own Jeff Sparrow, who serves as Wayne County's Code Enforcement Officer as well as our recycling coordinator. Jeff has been with the county for 10 years. The first 5 he was with the Sheriff Department, and the second he has been with the Solid Waste Department. Jeff has worked very hard from day one to keep Wayne County a clean place to live, from investigating unlawful dumping to educating the public to the proper disposal of whatever they may have to dispose of. From what we do and do not accept at our convenience centers as well as the landfill. And why it is so important to dispose of whatever they may have properly. Whether it's by appearing on local TV, radio, or talking with adult groups and school kids. Jeff also pursued and received a Bachelor of Arts in Social and Criminal Justice, in addition to helping put together several new recycling programs for Wayne County, from electronics and carpet recycling to shingles. Jeff is a hard-working professional, and everyone that has ever worked with Jeff will tell you he's a great person. So it is a great pleasure to recognize Mr. Jeff Sparrow in acknowledgement of his dedication to public services within the capacity of the solid waste enforcement and for his contribution to protecting the environment and public health with utmost professionalism. On behalf of the North Carolina Solid Waste Enforcement Association, we present the Mike Stillwell Enforcement of the Year Award to Mr. Jeff Sparrow. Jeff, if you and Jennifer will come up. Jennifer's with him today, his wife, and as we all know, every good man, can have a good woman, so. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? Jeff, thank you so much. Congratulations.
Jeff.
It's beautiful. Wayne wants to get
Stand in the center of these gentlemen. Here we go. Joe, there we go. Thank you. Tim, why don't you stand with them if you don't mind?
It's gonna mess it up.
And 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Good. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna skip about a little bit. We've got the special recognition. Mr. Gurley, if you would, let's hold up till we get through with we've got guests here from out of town that we need to go ahead and take care of what they've got, and then we'll come back to the appointment committee, if that's all right. Mr. Wood?
Mr. Chairman, you have in your packet on page 9 a memo that I've sent you regarding the jail schematic design. Just a few brief comments. As you recall, we've contracted with Mosley Architects, PC, to study the feasibility of 2 sites for a jail and then to prepare the schematic design phase of the misdemeanor jail. Our design group, which includes both Sheriff Pierce and Jail Administrator Fane Greenfield, have been working closely with the architect, and the proposed schematic design has been completed. Enclosed are the design components, a site plan showing the smaller jail, which is what you see on the board there, and a larger area reserved for the main jail to be constructed later. You have exterior views of the building, the 2 options, and a detailed interior floor plan. The plan is to construct the misdemeanor jail as quickly as possible to deal with the overcrowding issue. It'll house 217 inmates, which is 17 more than the current jail holds. Just to emphasize to you, our contract with Mosley stipulates that we are to review the proposed schematic design, and if you are satisfied with it, approve it and authorize them to proceed with preparation of detailed plans and specifications, contract documents, and bid documents. I want to stress to you that if you have any questions about the interior layout or the exterior design, this meeting is the time to bring it up. It will be very costly to make any modifications once we approve for them to prepare the detailed drawings. That's because then they prepare the electrical, plumbing, and heating and air, data cabling, and other utilities. So I want to emphasize today is the day we need to go over all of these things and make sure you're comfortable with the design of this. If you're not, then we should table it for 2 weeks until you get all of your questions answered, because we don't want to proceed on until you're ready to go with it. So with that, I'd like to introduce the folks from Mosley. Mr. Dan Mace will be making the presentation. And I just want to say the design group is very pleased with the schematic design that they've prepared. And it has incorporated many of the best features that we saw in our, I think it was 5 tours we made of various jails. So, Mr. Mace.
Thank you, Mr. Wood, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. On behalf of Mosley Architects,
We appreciate the opportunity to serve Wayne County. What we have to present to you today is not only the schematic of the satellite, but also we wanted to give you an update on Todd Davis's study on the replacement jail with projections. As part of our contract was divided into two tasks. One is to look at your population and project your needs for the future, as well as the satellite jail. So we're going to cover the satellite jail first, and then we'll have Todd Davis stand up and kind of update you on where we are with the projections that he's been working on. I'd like to bring up at this point my project manager, Jason Hopkins, to kind of run through the schematic design, and I'll come back up and talk about our estimated cost once he's kind of runs you through where we are with the with our plan. We do appreciate the hard work of the committee. We've had a number of meetings. The meetings now will start to progressively get more and more detailed, and we really appreciate the patience and diligence of this planning committee that's helped us move to where we are today. So with that, I'll bring up Jason Hopkins.
Good morning. I'm Jason Hopkins, as Dan mentioned, with Mosley Architects. And I'm going to start by trying to give you a bit of an overview of the project and where we stand in the design phase. So I'm going to kind of drive the mouse here to highlight some things on these slides. This is where we stand with the schematic site layout. And to orient you, this street here is North William Street. This is Stronach Avenue. The T-shaped building is the building we're currently designing, the satellite jail facility. This large block-out space here is not actually a building yet. This is kind of space allocated for the future full replacement jail. And you can see by the dash line, heavy, thick dash line, the extent of our property boundaries here on this parcel. On this corner is the existing in-out gas station. So we kind of have been working around that in placement of the building. So as it stands now with the property we have to work with, we've located a building here so that we have that room to expand, there we go, back into this portion of the site. Parking would be here off of Stronach Avenue with the main facility entrance kind of on this corner. Staff parking on this end of the building. You can see through these other dash lines, which you will know, the existing buildings that are on the site that'll be removed, the old shopping center. Are there any questions on the site, the schematic site layout?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Doherty.
In the parking, the public parking that you have there, do you feel like that's adequate in regards to the usage?
In terms of number of spaces, yes. There are not typically a lot of public visitors to a facility like this. We're showing 12 parking spots for the public, one of which would be a barrier-free spot for accessibility. I think the number of spots is adequate, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Payton.
Talking about the demolition of the old facilities out there. Aren't there some valuable steel in those buildings that could be sold, and what happens to that, and how does that work?
Sure, absolutely.
Our anticipated, what I would suggest is a demolition contract be put out. I would suggest that the demolition contractor kind of acknowledge any salvage value that may be in the demolition. That would reduce his cost of the demolition activity itself.
Yeah.
So I would just tie that up into the demolition.
I kind of figured that, but I just wanted the public to make
Right,
sure
so I
that
think-
we're
I
just
think
not
you-
throwing it away.
Right. Any salvage material will reduce the cost of the demolition, haul off.
Are you gonna do the demolition first before you begin any building?
Yes, sir. That needs to be completely demolished.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
while we're talking about demolition, you haven't put out any requests for bids or anything like that in regards to, you're just guesstimating its cost of demolition, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure we haven't discussed that with anyone so far, we just kind of estimate.
That's right, correct.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions on the site, can I have the next slide, please? The next slide is meant to, we have it colored up so that you can more easily identify the different areas and the groupings. This is the floor plan for the satellite jail facility. And we are currently at around 37,000 square feet. And we have 217 total beds shown currently, 25 of which are in actual hard cell construction. The other 192 are open dormitory style bed arrangements. To briefly walk you through the facility, this volume here is the vehicle sally port. So or bus, not a bus, but a car, anything transporting inmates will come in here. The roll-up doors will be secure. All the doors are interlocked so that you can drop off inmates and bring them into, lost the pointer, there we go, bring them into an intake area. This isn't really a full booking area. That really happens at the main primary jail. But the intake area will have, a desk for processing inmates into this facility, a couple of holding cells, an interrogation area. Okay, on the front of the building, this is the main public entrance here. There's a waiting area and also an area allocated for video visitation. I think we currently have 8 video visitation stations set up for the public, which will interact with video visitation stations in each of the pods. Each of the 4 pods will have corresponding stations. As you move through the facility, there's kind of an administration wing located here with employee locker room, toilets with shower, conference room, break room, offices located back here. On the more secure side, you're kind of on the secure side here, we have, of course, there's a place for a non-contact visitation between an inmate and an attorney to occur in a booth, so that you keep the inmate on the secure side, the attorney is on the non-secure side from the public. Moving back through here is a small medical screening type area, so any sort of minor medical things that need to occur can occur in this facility. In this part of the building, this is the kitchen, which will essentially just be a warming kitchen. All the meals will be cooked at the primary jail in bulk, transported to this facility, trayed up, and then distributed on the trays. Back here is the laundry area that currently will meet the needs of this facility and the existing jail. I think we'll have a capacity to do about 440 inmates out of this facility, with the plan being that in the future we can leave this laundry where it is, take down the wall between the laundry and the storage room, and double the size of the laundry so that when we build the main replacement facility, we can handle laundry for the entire campus. With the warming kitchen, that can also be turned into storage, property storage, bulk storage, anything the facility needs at that point, since a new replacement kitchen will be part of the replacement jail. These spaces here are essentially just service spaces, data room, electrical rooms, security electronics. And moving back through here, this is where the inmate housing and the pods are. The 2 kind of dark orange areas are control rooms. So we'll basically have 2 control rooms that will be operating, and each one will be monitoring 2 housing units. So on the planned north side of the building, this control room will be looking at this one 64-bed open dormitory. This one will be looking at basically a 25-bed hard cells. And each of these, and so these 2 dorms here are just basically identical to this one. So in each of these, we've tried to account for good sight lines and visibility and ease of operation. So, essentially one person could operate each of these control rooms, and it's elevated up 24 inches off the ground to kind of provide for some better sight lines. We've put all of basically, the places where people tend to act bad in a jail up close to the control rooms for better visibility. Each housing unit also has a multi-purpose room for ancillary functions to occur. Clergy can come in potentially. There are a lot of different ways you can use these multi-purpose rooms. And we've set it up to where outsiders don't have to actually come into the pods. They can come in through the sally port, access the multi-purpose room. We also have a couple of segregation cells for, basically a timeout function. Anyone that can't behave in the population could potentially go into the, segregation cells, but they're not sleeping cells. No overnight stays there. Also in blue, you'll notice that each of these pods have their own recreation yard. So this is an exterior recreation yard that's completely secure. It will have a security mesh top on it, so that, basically the elements can come in. It can rain in there, you can get sunshine in there, you can go out and you can basically be outside without really being outside of the facility, and you're still secured. This is great from an inmate movement standpoint. We've set these up so that you never really have to move the inmate out of the unit, or you can really minimize that. You don't have to go to one centralized recreation yard. So the less you can move inmates around, the safer and more secure the facility will be. Are there any questions on the schematic site plan layout?
I know you did, go ahead.
I think the first question that I have is, our concept here is to have a campus. So at a later time, actually adding a higher security jail. Are we planning ahead to where actually we would continue to use this Sally Port and this intake to intake prisoners for the expanded, I'm going to say, the new jail?
The issue with a facility this size is that what we have in here for intake is not nearly large enough to accommodate full booking for a replacement jail the size we're talking about. I mean, to give you some example, full booking would take up at least this much space, in a facility like this. Or this entire block. I mean, it's a much larger function than just an intake. Full booking and intake are two completely separate things.
So basically, if I'm understanding, and the reason for the question is that when we actually design the larger facility, in that facility not only would be the kitchen, but also probably a full booking would actually be in that.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir. But we're also thinking that there will be a use for this existing vehicular drop-off and intake area anyway, because this portion will likely serve like potentially weekender programs, work programs, work crews that go out. So that's actually a positive thing, because your replacement jail can be dedicated to the pre-adjudicated side of arrestees coming in and processing, that type of thing. But this side can be for those kind of weekender crews, so you can separate the misdemeanors, for instance, from the pretrial side. So, that can be really used for that purpose once the replacement facility is there. So we actually see this as being useful even when the replacement's up, but it will not be the formal booking area. It will just be an intake area for the adjudicated side.
I'm just hoping that we are using and we're thinking ahead in
Yes, sir.
regards to the new facility, so that we do have adequate uses for these, the Sally Ports and all these other rooms and these facilities when the other jail is actually.
Yeah, and I appreciate that point. That's an excellent point. We don't want to build space now, and then 5 years from now, just have empty space that's not needed. That's not the case here. There's certainly, and like as Jason mentioned, we did find that we could plan for the future laundry in this facility that will serve the entire campus, because again, you want your trustees running your laundry anyway, and this is where they are. So that makes sense, and the space works that way. So we can just basically demount a wall between the storage room that we're going to use to start with, and then we'll add storage where the warming kitchen was, because we don't need that. So we're actually moving the pieces of the puzzle without wasting space. So I appreciate your point there, and that's exactly what we're trying to do.
And if I could also ask in regards to these two rooms, how did you call those two rooms?
Segregation cells.
Timeout rooms.
Timeout.
But you're saying those actually could not be used for overnight stays?
No, sir, they cannot. If they are used for overnight stay, they have to have access to natural light. They're currently located in the center of the facility, So they do not have access to natural light. The jail standards will not let us use those cells for sleeping.
Okay.
The reason that they're like that is because this is a minimum custody facility.
Right.
And if they can't play well with others, they're going back to the main facility where
Right.
they can be. But you can put them in, I don't like timeout because these are not little kids. You can't put them, you can separate them. If it's an altercation, you can separate them just long enough until you make arrangements to get them back to the main facility.
Correct.
And the only other question I had about this, I'm getting to the end. See, how many questions were I allowed?
As many as you need.
Four, okay. At any rate, back to the section where you've got individual cells that are housing 2 inmates per pod. My concern of that, I think I expressed, was why we were not double decking that and actually picking up another floor. And if I'm understanding correctly, it would actually increase our personnel by doing that. Am I correct?
Yes, you're gonna have staff at each level. If you did a mezzanine level,
Right.
then you wouldn't. But if you're putting a whole nother floor, then you've got staff functions on both floors. So you're doubling what staff you have.
We would also lose some construction efficiencies. The size of this day room here is probably not large enough to accommodate the additional inmate load. You have to provide so many square feet per inmate. So we would basically kind of be taking this regular building, which is very efficient to construct and build, very constructible, and you're kind of making one corner of it a double volume kind of a tick onto the building. That kind of, for instance, whereas you could run a truss all the way across here, you can no longer do that. So it adds a lot more to the construction cost and construction efficiency for what you really get out of it.
Well, and the reason for the question is to make sure that, one, that we're building as cost-effective structure as possible, and secondly, that it's also reducing our cost of operation, manpower and so forth. And I'm hoping that those things have actually been, and my understanding is you all have looked at all of that when designing this particular design, so that it not only is less cost on the front end, but also less cost to the taxpayer in operation. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, can I follow up? I'm sorry.
We have a phase 2 and a phase 3 that we can do as far as the add-on, is that right? Is that what we're calling it?
Well, the main jail, or the bigger jail, as they're referring to it, would connect to this one along that gray corridor there.
Right.
Right here.
And so it would go right next to it, and then it would function as one jail, but you'd still have the misdemeanors on one side and the more serious offenders on the other side. And then the question from there would be what do you do after that? We can fill that site, and if you'll notice, if you go back to the site plan,
Go back one slide, Marshall, please.
what they've done on the site plan is they've put this as close to Stronach as you can. So it will move right to left as you build and as you expand. So I think they've done a very good job of encompassing the various phases that we would go into.
And keep in mind now, when we do add on, this square that they've got drawn off, this is just for information only. There's been no work done on design or anything on the
Right.
addition jail. This is just to simulate that it's gonna take up some space. It may be larger, it might be smaller. This is just to give y'all an idea of how the two are gonna be tied together.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ladd.
But did I not see somewhere the main jail, a drawing similar to this, with that main jail?
No, sir, not for
Okay.
this.
All right.
There's a second drawing, but it was just two options of the same facility.
Okay, all right.
One,
One with glass, one without.
right.
I was thinking I saw something in this drawing where the main jail was put on here so we could see what it would look like on the face.
No, the second, what he's giving you here is two options
Yeah,
on the front of the building, how it would look on the entrance. That's
Yeah.
all this is, it's
Okay.
the same building.
the other thing I wanted to mention is that There's been a lot of time put into this so far, but one of the things I want to mention is that law enforcement here in Wayne County, the sheriff, Major Greenfield, everybody has been involved in all these meetings. And no matter what we do, there's always room for improvement. So I'm sure we haven't picked everything 100%, but certainly suggestions are welcome, because it's a humongous task. I never knew the kind of codes and what you have to do to build a jail. I mean, the layers of paperwork are that thick, you know, and we're just moving through it each meeting at a time. So I appreciate what everyone's doing.
Mr. Pate.
You know what I was going to say, kind of following up what Commissioner Dodd was talking about. This is just the first phase, but what this does, it solves an immediate problem that we have with inmates going out of the county. Costs us $1 million a year. So this should allow them to come back to Wayne County, and possibly between the two jails, we might have some extra spots.
That's right.
And that's what the important
And you
thing
will
is.
initially.
And I know we're going to have to, at some point in time, maybe not this board, but a future board, we'll have to look at that expansion, because it's just the way it's going to be. But I just wanted to make that point. This solves the immediate problem.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kamara.
I would like to just draw attention to the committee for a moment. Early on, when we talked about jails, there were various and sundry places that were considered and discussed. But my colleague over to the right has a vast experience in jails, and I'm speaking about Mr. Bell.
Spent a lot of time there.
In or out?
He cautioned us early on not to go in the wrong direction about jails, and so I think he helped us to keep down some surprises because of the experience he's had in and out of jails and what they ought to look like. So I just want to give a little shout out to him this morning, because he provides a wealth of experience that the rest of us probably do not have. So thank you, John, and certainly Major Captain Greenfield. I get your title right.
He's a major. He's a major.
All right, and we certainly can rely on folk that have the vast experience for dealing with this, and Wayne County stands in good stead having folk to rely on like that. And just a congratulations to the whole committee. I think y'all doing a good job with this, also as architects.
Anyone else?
Just a quick comment here while we're talking about this. You know, the board went and viewed a number of jail facilities, and you all were instrumental in helping us in setting some of those up. We want to make sure that the public's aware that we're not breaking new ground here. We've got similar facilities as these that have been built and are in operation, and any bugs that may have been there, hopefully you all have found them before we built it here in Wayne County. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And also, not only did we go visit facilities that Mosley had designed, we went and saw some facilities that they had absolutely nothing to do with. So, and we've taken some of the what we think, or actually Major Greenfield and the sheriff and Robert's been involved in, is they know what to look for a whole lot better than we do. But we not only just relied on Mosley's, we went and looked at some jails that other firms had designed, and actually picked up on some little ideals that probably will be incorporated into this. But we've done our homework on this. Like Mr. Doherty says, we've blazed trails in the past and rode a little bit too fast, but we're being very careful on this one, because this has got to last the county a long time.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bale.
You know, I get an opportunity to visit a lot of jails over North Carolina, and I'm satisfied with what I've seen, the work that Mosley Architect have done over the state. And I think for the sake of time that we need to go ahead, and I'd like to put a motion on the floor that we approve this and we move on.
Yes. Mr.
Just one quick comment to Mosley and to the jail staff and to the jail committee. Thank you for the addition of the laundry part of the project. That's certainly be a cost savings. I think people don't realize what kind of cost savings it will be. So I appreciate consideration and adding that to the project.
Mr. Doherty.
Since there's a motion on the floor, we're gonna move to the back page here for just a moment.
Yeah, before you, don't we need to let them finish their presentation before we take any action?
Can you hold off?
Can you hold off, Mr. Bell, till we get through with the
Okay,
presentation?
I'll wait 2 minutes.
You're allowed 4.
All right, if we could turn to the back page, I don't think we have it on our PowerPoint, but you can see each image, and of course, we'll develop that, but basically, the veneer of the building is brick, long-term, low maintenance materials, standing seam, slope metal roof. Again, we're choosing materials that are of high quality, will last the county for many, many years. The last page, of course, is where the rubber meets the road, is what our opinion of total project cost is. Now, understand we are still at the schematic design level. So, as we move forward into the development and the contract document phase, this estimate that you see here will get much more detailed. The next one that you see at the conclusion of the design development phase will be like a contractor would take off. There'll be individual material amounts, and so it'll be a very detailed cost estimate. So, again, the more detail we get on the project as it moves forward, the better snapshot we get of what the building will probably cost. And we expect the cost to constrict, because earlier on during the schematic phase, I keep more contingency on there. Again, I want to give you an estimate that I feel is conservative. We don't want to come back to the commission and say, oh, by the way, we need more money. We don't want to do that. It'll be something we'll work within, in other words. So where I think we are right now, if you'll follow along with me, is, again, we're about 37,240 square feet, single-story structure, load-bearing masonry, brick veneer, standing seam metal roof, steel frame roof construction. New jail construction consists of what I can call conditioned walkable square feet. This is how I kind of calculate my costs for these sort of things. Then also, new jail construction will be the vehicular sally port and those rec yards, which are not conditioned space, but are still secure spaces to build. We also have a mechanical structural mezzanine to house the mechanical equipment above the first floor. We have a site development cost, which includes in that demolition and site improvements, dirt moving around, bringing utilities to the building, that sort of thing. And then we have 2 contingency numbers that I place, each at 5%. One is for construction design contingencies as we move forward. As we level on layers of detail, that's what that's allocated for. And then another one is cost escalation contingency, in that we plan on bidding this or having this prepared for bid in like March, April of next year. We never know when a Katrina may happen or something like that may adversely affect costs. So again, to err on the side of, we don't want to spend this at all, but we want it allocated there just in case you do need it. So, and that brings us roughly to a $9 million construction cost that we feel like this satellite facility would bring in April. And then we have miscellaneous computers, office chairs, that sort of thing, the loose stuff, the stuff that's not bolted down. We've got site and construction testing services that have to be done, for structural steel, for the foundations, to make sure that we're required to do that by code. Those have to be third party. We have miscellaneous fees, document printing costs, transition operations planning services, and those add up to about $972,000. So that brings our total estimated project budget right now of just under $10 million, 9.977. So are there any questions, comments?
Did they say you're from Charlotte?
I am.
I hope these are Charlotte numbers, because I'm hoping that our bids are going to come in substantially less than this. But I understand what you're saying, and I want to make sure everyone else is looking at that. We've got a lot of contingency in here.
Correct. That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
I'm essentially carrying $1 million of just contingency in there right now at this level of development of the design. Now, as we move forward, that contingent, I'll start dropping those. I'll drop 5% by the DD level, because we'll have so much more information on the drawings that we can get a really better, and we're closer to the bid date, I can take some of those off. So I anticipate too that our construction numbers, as we move forward, will continue to, I'll hone in on those as well, so.
And Mr. Wood, have you got any comments in regards to these estimates as such to kind of?
Yeah, we've done, what Pam and I have done, I've given you a sheet, this long sheet here. And I just wanted to talk briefly about this. We'll have a more refined sheet for you later, probably at our budget retreat. But I just wanted to point out to you that a couple of comments. If you remember, you set aside out of fund balance, you set aside $5 million towards the jail project. Does everybody remember that? Out of our fund balance. So that's already shown as committed in our fund balance. So it's a reduction to the fund balance that's available. Now, with that $5 million, if this thing ends up costing, let's just round it off at 9, and I'm not holding you to that. I know we're.
Oh, I am. And lower.
But let's just say that it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $9 million. What I wanted to show you here is if you look at the first 2 lines on this debt service repayment schedule, that is the existing debt for non-school county debt. In other words, that's the county debt, not counting schools. And you'll notice that we have 4 more years. We're in fiscal year 15. We have 4 more years of that debt service, and then it goes away. So what we're looking at is using that $5 million to bridge those 4 years with these debt service payments, and then pay it. My recommendation to you is to use where he says or, he's looked at a 15-year or 20-year. My recommendation to you is to go out 20 years with this. If you do that, you're going to spend less than $3 million of that $5 million bridging those 4 years, because you will have to use that debt service while you're paying down this debt. We won't have extra money to pay it, the debt, those first 4 years. Everybody follow me? Because we'll still have to make these payments up here. But starting in fiscal year 20, $1,099,892, so basically $1.1 million is now paid off, and you no longer have to make those payments. Well, in fiscal 2020, then we have the money to more than make these payments, because these annual payments at that point are going to be $795,000 or $800,000, and we'll have $1.1 million to meet that. So we'll more than meet that, and that will allow us to bridge that. So what I'm telling you is we're going to be able to do this jail without having to change any tax rates or anything else, because what I'm recommending is you bridge those 4 years with part of that $5 million you've already set aside. I would not pay it on the front end, because if you do that, then we don't have the money available to pay off the $4 million. But if you do it this way, you can do that without any problem.
Question?
So if I'm understanding, in the year 2020, our total cost on that, that we would have to budget for is roughly $800,000.
Yes, if you go down, see where the red or is?
Oh, yeah.
If you go down to the next line where it says principal,
Right.
you go over there, it's $457,000 and then $338,000. If you add those together, that's $795,648. So at that point, I'll explain to you now how we'll have the capital cost covered, or the debt service covered on it. So that cover what we.
Okay. Any other question?
I'm just hoping we can come in substantially below your estimates. I hope you're a bad estimator.
Well, like I say, I covered myself to say that these are very conservative estimates, and again, I'd rather approach you at each level of detail with the number shrinking, and that's what we intend on doing. So I think that's a safe bet.
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
one
Gurney.
question. Just for clarity, under project cost number 3, miscellaneous fees for $630,000.
Right, that includes essentially the architectural and engineering design fees. They're based upon 7% of the construction number.
Okay.
As a multiplier. So again, as that number drops, so does that.
The 7%.
Proportionally.
That's right.
Yes, a 7% factor.
Good.
So for instance, if the construction design contingency, line 5, and the cost escalation contingency go down, so 7% of that'll come off here
That's
as
good.
well.
The 7% is what I was trying to acknowledge. Good, thanks.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bell.
my early motion still stands.
Well, let's let them finish their presentation first.
Well, that actually concludes our presentation on the satellite bill. We do have an update on our projections for the long-term needs of the county, if that's something you'd like us to start now,
Yes.
or would you like to entertain this
Now,
motion?
we want y'all to get through before we act.
Okay, okay. I'd like to bring up Todd Davis.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see y'all again. My projections and stuff is not gonna be on the PowerPoint, but you do have the handout there in front of you. What I was tasked with was to first look at historically where your population had been. And so you'll see there on table 1 on the first page, 2009, your average daily population was 216. It jumped to 230 in 2010, came down a little bit in 2011, and then in 2013, you were at 226. Now, the average daily population, that does not include your highs for different times throughout the month. That was average throughout that month for those years, 2013. We look at, when doing projections, we look at historically where your population has been, average daily population. Then we also looked at peaked, on what single days during that month were you much higher than that average. You'll see as we go on a little bit further, you hit some days that you were at 248, and you hit several of those days. Well, the way the jail population works is DOC may call and say, okay, now we've got some beds, so you can ship that 30 that you got on backlog. So you may see a drastic drop from one day to the other. Even though you hit some real high peaks, that average daily population shows maybe a lower number. Does that make sense? Because I'm sure the major will tell you that you can have a lot of felons sentenced, but DOC has some what they bed space. Their time actually put them in. You have to hold them until DOC has bed space. Well, bed space that you can send. So you're sending a lot. So you may 50, maybe 210, something depending.
I think a lot of other people was built, you can see for over 5 years to be over. Accommodate, how you can accommodate and 3 inmates more than capacity. I mean, I don't know how you're doing it. I'm able to overcapacity. You evidently have appreciated. We have put off as long as we've got to do.
2, when you're about 80%, you're full. Because if you go right to your bed count and you house that many, and that's what you've been doing to the classified, you're putting different offenders together that you normally shouldn't be. You know, Department of Corrections, their classification system is based on units. You know, the prison here, it might be all one class offender, and I'm sure Mr. Bell can tell you that's the way they do it. You know, one prison in one area of the state might be a minimum custody to where Craven is a maximum custody. So, but you got all of those in your jail. You got minimum. So, as was it being at AP, then the next thing I wanted to look at was your county population, your overall county, and your State Office of Budget Management for their population. It's very conservative number. They, I think, I tell you, expecting that in 2018, Wayne County's going to have 127,000. That, if that's right, it'll be the first time I've ever seen it because they're very conservative. Plus, that's only documented. Our jail system has both documented and undocumented people in it. So that has a big impact. They're showing that in 2034, general 250. The next thing I did was I looked at what was admitted to 2008-39. It dropped down in 2010, dropped again in 2013, 47. I usually get when you had some of your highest numbers. Well, what happens is when your jail starts getting so overcrowded, member of the criminal justice, you know, you're getting maybe some unsecured bonds, some lower bonds, a person's getting a citation as opposed to bringing to jail. people getting supposed to get, everybody recognized to do. So that's why, that doesn't, you had that number that you're going to really increase. So now that we've looked at what projections are, and then we looked at what your emissions were, then we calculate an emission rate, which is on table 3 on page 3. What that emission rate is, how many people actually are being admitted to your jail out of 10,000. So every population, 560, it might be the, but to have that 10,000, it's pretty across the board from county to county. So that's not anything unusual. So then once we identify the emission rate, and with 561 being the highest, the National Institute of Corrections recommends when you go through a study period of 5 years to take your highest emission rate and use that for calculating further. So with that, I used the 561, looked at what your county population is, and I projected emissions in 5-year increments, which is in the next table, that runs through 2043, showing 8,292.24. It's what projected emissions. So now that we've accomplished all of that, then I want to see what's the biggest driving factor that keeps them in there. You know, it makes you need the most beds, and that's the average length of stay. The longer somebody is there, naturally that's tying up a bed, so you need to have more beds the longer the average length of stay is at. What I was shocked to find, and most people, when you tell them, especially people that work in the facility, Major Greenfield, when I calculated and came up with your average length of stay is, it's like, ain't no way, because we've got people that's been here 2-3 years waiting on capital murder cases. But I look and have to look at every single person admitted. That person that gets arrested for a DWI at 9 o'clock on Friday, and by 10 minutes after 9, he's made bond and gone home. He still was admitted. So we looked at every single admission. I will say that your average length of stay is probably the best east of Raleigh I've seen. I do have some concerns whether it's sustainable or not. Whether they can, when the average length of stay is as low as they are here, that tells me everything's working as best it possibly can. I just can't see in maintaining that. These are incredible numbers. They were so bad, they were so low to me when I first ran them, I started all over again and did it all over again. I mean, I did a couple of counties right near you that were in the 18, 22, 23 days average length of stay. But it's, you know, that's where it came up. Your highest average length of stay was 13.7 days, which is really good. Usually what we say is efficient is in the 14 to 15 days, really maximum efficient, so you're better than that.
Mr. Chairman,
But
Mr. Mayor, I have a question at this point. Does the figures you just quoted, do they include people that have the ankle bracelets?
No. No, because those that you put on house arrest, they're included in your admissions because they were admitted at one time. Mm-hmm. It takes away from your average length of stay, because the average length of stay is only the ones that are confined. So all the ones that's on electronic monitoring program, they're not in that calculated in the average length of stay because they're not taking up a bed.
I was wondering if that may add an effect on our
Could.
overall, because we have increased our ankle bracelet usage, I believe. So that may not be the only factor, but it could contribute to.
Absolutely. And, you know, in talking with Major Greenfield and his staff, they do a real good job of letting the district attorney's office know, hey, this person's been here for a while. You know, we need to get him calendared.
Yeah.
What does hurt you a little bit is the number of capital cases, the number of murder cases that y'all house. Those people, it's not unusual 2.5 to 3 years for somebody charged with murder to be in your jail. Because it's just going through that process, you know, that it takes. But, you know, I will commend both the jail staff as well as the entire criminal justice system, your DA's office, your electronic monitoring, the clerk's office, all of them, because they definitely, by these numbers, have proven to me that they're trying to do what's right to try to expedite cases. So now that we've gotten through Table 5 through the average length of stay, now I got to start predicting going forward. I want to look at what the highest number per year that you hit, because then that allows me to project the peaking ratio. So when you peak, in 2009, you hit a high population of 235. 2010, you hit 242. Again in 2011, 2012, 259. 213, you hit 237. This morning, you're at 245. And those numbers, I talked about it earlier, you didn't just hit that one day during the month, you hit that several days during the month. So that, you have to allow for those when you have those high, because if you don't have space in your jail for classification and when they're peaked, then where do you put Junior when he comes to jail when you don't have a bed to put him in? You gotta allow for that peaking factor.
You said this morning the jail population was 245.
Yeah, I think that's what you told me, wasn't it, maybe? 205 plus the 40 that's housed out of county.
Okay, so actually it's 205 in our facility.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
But 40 that are still
Sure.
Wayne County's responsibility, you're just paying another county.
So those that we're housing outside the county are included in these numbers?
If they were shown, you don't, in your jail management system, you don't release those, you just show them assigned to another county, I think is what Cindy had told me. So they are included in these.
Okay.
Yeah, you wouldn't actually release them until they were released from Wayne County's responsibility. In other words, whether they went to DOC
Right.
or they made bond.
Right.
So even though they're housed somewhere else and you're paying somewhere else, they're still yours. So they are included. So calculating that peaking ratio, the average was 1.1. And you can see it danced all around from 109 to 114 being the highest. So now that tells me how much I need to allow for peaking, those times during the month when you reach those high numbers. The next thing is we add 25% for classification purposes, to be able to separate your aggravated felons from your lesser felons. I always say you don't want to put the banker that embezzled from the bank in with somebody that was a mass murderer or something. You have to, the law says you have to classify. Wayne County's not been able to properly classify because of their overcrowding. I think I first did work for y'all in like 2003, and you couldn't do it then. And it's no way you can do it, because going back to what I told you, when you're 75 to 80% full of your rated capacity, you're full, because if you use that other 25%, then you can't separate those offenders. And which is a huge liability to the county. So on the next page, on page 6, you'll see table 7. I use my projections to show what the ADP is going to be, and then adding the classification factor, and then adding the peaking factor, and then showing a classified and peaked. Classified and peaked is what we recommend, because then you're able to classify and account for those peak times, and especially since you had peak numbers every month, multiple times throughout that month you hit those highs. What this doesn't take into consideration is the 2 new laws. The probation dips, quick dips and dunks, which is the quick dips is the 2 3-day stints, and then the dunks is the 90-day, because that hadn't been implemented long enough by the state to actually have any data. I can only go by what we can get. The other thing is the new misdemeanor law. DOC no longer is going to house misdemeanor inmates. They're all the responsibility of the county. I did get some numbers from the jail staff going back, looking at what your misdemeanors had been and what you had been sending to prison. It was about 22% of your population. But there again, it's hard to project that, because they may be charged with a felony and housed as a felon, but by the time they go through the court system, they take a misdemeanor plea. So I don't know how many of those ended up that way. That's not uncommon for that to happen. So I didn't factor any of that in here, and because I think these numbers are conservative as they are, I wanted you to see where this comes out with what data we have now to deal with. So in 2043, we think you're going to need 420 beds to accommodate classified and peaked. Now, with that said, I think you're going to hit that number much earlier than that, because of the quick dips, the dunks, the new misdemeanor law, those things that we don't have true data that we can pull from to analyze at this point. It would not surprise me if you don't hit it by the 2023, 2028 period, hit those numbers.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to say anything out of turn, but from what I'm understanding on the new laws, that's actually putting more pressure on county jails. And could you elaborate on that in regards to, because this history is interesting, but this new law that comes into effect, which is requiring counties to house misdemeanors up to a certain level, as I understand it. Could you give me a little explanation on that?
Okay, just to give you a little bit of background, when it started, if an inmate was sentenced to 91 days or more, then they became the property of Department of Corrections. You didn't house them at the county jail. You shipped them to the Department of Corrections, 91 days and above.
So what you wanted to do is to make sure that your judges went ahead and sentenced them to 91
Absolutely.
or 92 days.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But then they modified that here a couple of years ago, and they started what they call the statewide misdemeanor program, which now is from 91 to 180 days are still housed at the county jail. And the state reimburses. Every county jail in the state participates in that, but it's two different levels of participation. You can either be a receiving agency or a sending agency. And if you're a sending agency, like what Wayne County currently is, when they have inmates that are sentenced in that 91 to 180 day period and you don't have a bed for it, then they contact the Sheriff's Association. Sheriff's Association says, okay, well, Sampson County's got beds, so you can send them there. And then the state pays $40 a day to Sampson County for housing your inmate. Okay. Now, the new law that was just passed is that you gotta house every misdemeanor now. Whether it's 180 days or 240 days or whatever it is. If it's a misdemeanor sentence, state DOC is getting out of the misdemeanor housing business. We're not housing them anymore in the state. They're all county jail levels. And that's the part that we don't have enough really data yet to say what's that gonna be. I mean, having worked in the jail and spent a lot of time in the courtroom, that's a lot of people that are sentenced in that window right there for misdemeanors.
But now the burden is on the county.
Now the burden's on the county. Now, they still have the statewide misdemeanor program. So, I was talking to the major and all, once you open up your misdemeanor, the annex facility that we talked about earlier, you may now can change from being a sending agency to a receiving agency. So now you can get a little piece of that $40 a day. You know, is that a moneymaker? No, it's not, because it costs you. However, if you've got beds there, your staffing's not going to change. The light bill's not going to change. You're going to have some more hot water. You know, your meals, usually the way that works, the more meals you feed, the cheaper per tray it is, because your contract food service is on a sliding scale. So it becomes a moneymaker then. But you want to be a receiving agency more than a sending. And then once that goes away, which is probably, you know, if it follows the progression that's surrounding states, that's probably going to go away to where you end up. So you definitely want to be on that end that you can take other counties' inmates, because then that daily per diem is not going to be set. In a lot of counties that are housing for other counties, it's $50 to $55 a day. You can't get $40 a day. You're lucky if a county holds your inmates for $40 a day. That's probably the lowest I've heard.
Well, the reason for the question is, you know, if we've got a 200-bed facility and we're adding 217, I want to make sure that everybody understands that we're not building way over capacity, because the need is there, not only on the immediate, but also filling in regards to receiving prisoners until we actually have those, that we need those beds. So the need is there currently.
Yeah, not in good conscience could I ever recommend building more beds than you're ever going to need. I think it's wise to build what you're ultimately going to need and then lease those beds until which time you grow into them. But never would I ever suggest that you bid more than you know, even if you say, I want to house federal inmates. One, the feds won't give you a contract. They will say, we will house it, but they will not give anybody a signed contract, and they can decide tomorrow, hey, we're pulling them out. So I don't think you ever should build more beds than what your county facility is ultimately gonna need.
Mr. Chairman. Somewhere back there you said, I thought you said that were you saying that whenever we send inmates to another county, the state pays?
Under the statewide misdemeanor program right now, if they're in that, you're probably housing out-of-county inmates that are not in that.
Are not in that program you're talking
Gage, I'm
about?
gonna kind of defer to you on that. I don't know how many out of that 40 statewide misdemeanors are just your housing to alleviate your overcrowding. All of them are alleviating overcrowding? Yeah, so you're paying the full bill on that.
Well, I that's what I wanted to clear up, because what you had said was inconsistent with what we had been hearing, because I had understood that Wayne County was paying the cost for inmates being on the outside of Wayne County, but that's why I wanted to clear that up. Because listening to it, in my ear thought that the state was sending something that they're not sending. And I believe that figure runs near $1 million a year, is that what I've heard?
That's right.
So just for public consumption, when you hear the figure of $9 million or so, we've been doing this 10 years, we've already spent that money. So, just for public consumption, we want to make sure that folk listen to this, know that we're not just building a jail because it's something that the sheriff department might want. We're looking at the hard dollar figures in terms of what we'll save over time. And we know it's not going to be a pure saving of $1 million a year, because we still got to pay for something back here. But we're looking forward to it not costing us that full $1 million a year.
And just to follow up on that, I think it bears repeating that these satellite jails cost a whole lot less than the regular type jail, because they're not for medium and maximum security. So this construction is a whole lot less expensive than what we would have to do otherwise. And we're picking up half again as many beds. I mean, we're doubling the capacity of what we've got, really at the cheapest jail construction you can do.
One other thing, just for public, talk a little bit about the term misdemeanor jail.
You have felonies and you have misdemeanors. Misdemeanors are lesser caliber of crime. It's things like your child support, drunk driving, misdemeanor rape, B&E, trespassing, those type. They're typically shorter term incarceration sentences. A lot of misdemeanor probation violations come under that. Trying to house misdemeanors like in this annex, keeping those all in, some of those might be weekenders. Where that's important to separate them from the other is because of introduction of contraband into your facility. So if you can separate these ones serving weekends from your general population, you're kind of helping yourself out there too. The statewide misdemeanor program, I don't know if that's your question, that is when they increased from county jails holding them from 90 days or less to up to 180 days, then they started that statewide misdemeanor program. Because there was so many jails, they could not, they were doing all they could do to hold 90-day sentences, much less 180 days. So rather than the state just cutting it off at once, that was their first step to say, okay, we're gonna still pay it. Because it was cheaper for them to reimburse a county $40 a day than it was for them to build additional beds and pay what it's costing them to house one a day. So they saved money by doing that.
One last thing, Mr. Bell. I know you're getting ready to call time, but whenever we are watching national TV and I think some of the northern states are looking at reducing some of the things that they call misdemeanors. I saw a gentleman on TV the other day looking at, I think it was a certain amount of marijuana in a bag. It would be a citation versus a charge. What do you think that might do to reduce the population North Carolina, if our laws were put in line with that, so some of the charges may not cause for a warrant or jail time or citation versus outright charge. What do you think?
We did a sentencing restructure back in '94. We went from what was known then as the Fair Sentencing Act to now structured sentencing. And what that did was it changed sentence types. But what it did was it put them in the jail as opposed to prison. Under fair sentencing, some of the convictions got prison time, and now under structured sentencing, it's jail time. If they fall in line with what you're saying, I mean, that's kind of hard to, it would go against what the state has done historically. Historically, sentencing law changes has taken them out of the prison and putting them into the jails. Now, if they changed it in the other way, it could have an impact on what's in your jail. But what I see here, in actually east of Raleigh, it's more felons. You're seeing lesser misdemeanors and more felons.
More felons?
More felons, yeah. Major, I don't want to speak for you, but that's what I see. You're seeing more felons. The jail I ran, we had 4 misdemeanor blocks when I first started. When I left, we had to take them over by felons. Had it down to 1 because the felony population. You're seeing more prescription drug pills, more females. It's a whole lot of it's all driven on felonies.
And so I just want not to lose this. We're having more felony cases east of 95.
And I probably shouldn't categorize it by east of 95. I'm seeing it because I've done
In the eastern
predominantly
part
the
of the
most
state.
work in the eastern part of the state in the last 8-10 months. And I've seen the number of felon cases increase.
And just for clarification, for the general public that's watching this morning and also listening, until we got involved in this, I did not really understand prison and jail until we got involved in this. It's just for the general public. A jail and a prison is 2 different animals. When you're in jail, you're innocent until proven guilty. When you're in prison, you are guilty. So you've got to look at that. It's not apples to apples. It's just apples to oranges. And I really did not realize what the difference was until we got involved in this project.
I know this is not a question I have for you, but Major Greenfield, I would just, since we have you here, do you have any thoughts about why our felony situation may be increasing over this way, sounds like, versus some other part of the state?
Not really, sir. I think that the county and the city is doing all they can to keep every inmate that they can out of jail. The city has started a new program that they are working with, that these inmates get an opportunity to go before the community, and they're still coming to jail. But that program is working. David Boyd Son is doing an outstanding job as far as the court system allowing them to put these monitors on that's keeping a lot of inmates from coming to jail. They come to jail, but they are taken out of the jail, most of the time within a couple of days. But I'm going to have to say that, and it's probably not a good thing to say, but our young folks is out of control.
Well,
and you're going to have to accept that somewhere down the line. It's going to have to be accepted that something is going to have to be done. The schools, there's no discipline, there's no accountability. The schools is putting them out of school. So where you think they're coming? They're coming to the county jail. Parents can't raise them. They're coming to the county jail. So,
well, you know, I was anticipating that you would give us bad news, but that's what has to be said, and we have to recognize that, because the word felon means that that's some dangerous, that's a crime, that's bad business.
Yes, sir.
And if it's moving this way, I mean, if our numbers are increasing this way, then there needs to be a large discussion about what we're going to do to reduce that, and what, like you said, what's causing it? Putting young people out on the street quicker to start having more time to be involved in activities that's going to lead to felony type crime. So as a community, we just gonna have to look at that. We just can't look at building a jail to put them in, we gotta try to look at something to keep them from ever getting there in the first place. And Major, I just want you to speak to that a minute, and thank you, sir.
Mr. Bell?
Yeah, I just want to add something real quick. I'll make it real quick. Since the state went to the Justice Reinvestment Act, they are on track to save $560 million within the next year. Not the counties, but because the state have closed 12 prisons, they made it more convenient. Well, they gave the probation and parole people more authority. Instead of sending them to DOC, we put them in the local jail for 2 or 3 days. And so what the state is doing, and they are utilizing the county jail on one end where they save all this money. And there's nothing we can do about it because the law is changing as we speak. And it's going to change. And now that 217 bed, it looked like a lot of bed space. But when the new law take effect, it'll probably be full before we can get downtown.
That's why I said, even though these numbers show that that's through 2043, I think you're probably gonna hit that somewhere into 2023.
Now, since the Justice Reinvestment Act have been initiated, they have, the prison population have declined, in addition to the regular decline in population, by 3,800 inmates. That's a lot of people.
Mr. Bell, will you restate your motion, please, so we can?
Oh, my motion is to accept the presentation of the architectural, what is
You
it?
want to, and then approve the schematic design
schematic
so that
design.
they can move forward with full design?
Right.
Which option?
You want-
Yes.
Yeah, which option do you want on that exterior?
Oh,
The cheapest
I
one.
like
That
that.
Without all that glass.
I like A better than,
Oh, we had an A and a B?
B's got that glass and stuff on it.
Yeah, I thought-
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's the B, here's the A.
That one.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We're in agreement that we're going with this design?
Right.
Okay.
Option A.
Option A. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do I have any discussion? If no discussion, all in favor of Mr. Bell's motion, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
the
Bell.
reason I made my motion so early, I did not want Commissioner Doherty to beat me to the motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Doherty.
you make the motion on the jails, I'll make it on the schools.
Thank y'all.
I'll go right into public comment. He ain't here.
We are running behind schedule. Our public comment is for 10 o'clock. We're running behind. I apologize. If anyone's present that has public comments, please come forward now. State your name, address, and phone number, and you're allowed 4 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, Tom is not here.
There's a gentleman here. There's a gentleman.
Good morning.
Morning.
Jim Barnwell, 108 Woods Drive, Dudley, North Carolina. I'm back, and I'd like to come in on taxes. From what I'm hearing, there's a good possibility that the General Assembly will be asking, probably put in bills to increase the sales taxes again on things like service charges. Take for instance, an air conditioner serviceman comes out to your house to work on an air conditioner or heating system. He'll have to charge you sales tax on his work, which in turn makes him a tax collector of the state of North Carolina. How does that affect the individual? average businessman, a CEO, they have what they call benefits. Those benefits a lot of times covers home repairs, upkeep, etc. Who pays for that? The company is going to be paying for it, but in reality, who pays it? The customers of those companies, which is the we might say the middle class people and lower income people. So their taxes are going to be increased not only from the man that's servicing their air conditioner or heating system, they're going to have to pay those taxes. So for the high income people, such as CEOs and business operators, I would ask you to call your representative, and not only the senators, but the representatives in the House in Raleigh, to oppose any bill that would increase sales taxes for service charges. Anybody got any questions?
Anyone?
I can see it coming, folks, and I think you can too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? No one else. The public comment session is closed. All right, let's go back up to the appointment committee. Mr. Gurley.
Mr. Chairman, appointment committee met this morning. The Wayne County Fireman's Relief Fund Board of Trustees. Appointment committee recommends the reappointment of Richard Lewis to the Wayne County Fireman's Relief Fund Board of Trustees, and I put that in the form of a motion.
I have a motion on the floor. Any discussion on the Fireman's Relief Fund Board of Trustees? No discussion. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries.
The next is Wayne County Board of Health. The appointment committee recommends the reappointment of Robert L. Cagle and reappointment of Steve R. Van. I put that in the form of a motion.
Where are we at in the book?
Page one.
Still on one. Have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries.
Next one, Wayne County Board of Health. Appointment committee would like to recommend the appointment of Joseph Lee Hackett to the Wayne County Board of Health. And I put that in the form of a motion.
Have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? If no discussion, all in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries.
This next was a little lengthy now. The Wayne County Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. The appointment committee recommends the reappointments of Allison Pridgeon, Jeff Stewart, Sheriff Larry M. Pierce, Jennifer Short, Suzanne Lewis, Stephen Potter, Allison Spate, Marlene Hubble, Daniel Weeks, John M. Bell, Marcia Mitchell Hamilton, David Brantley, Brandy Nicole Matthews, Evelyn Coley, Felicia Lucas, Sydney R. Hill, H. Leroy Lewis, Larry M. Johnson, Sudie Davis, and Joseph E. Setzer, all reappointments to the Wayne County Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. I put that in the form of a motion.
Mr. Chairman, can I comment on one thing?
Yes, sir.
This is my fault. I didn't get to the committee. Allison Spate has asked not to be reappointed because of her increased duties in the finance department. That's my representative on the board. What I would like to do, if y'all have no objection, Joe, is to put the assistant county manager, Tom Burns, in there for that.
I'm fine with that.
Do we need to act on that or just take Mr. Wood's recommendation?
I think you could just put his name in lieu of hers
That's
on there.
That will be fine, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other discussion? No discussion. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries.
And then one more, Mr. Chairman, on the Wayne County Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Appointment Committee recommends the appointment of Matthew Delbridge. I put that in form of a motion.
Have a motion on the floor, any discussion? No discussion, all in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries.
And that concludes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Gurley. Moving on, actually, under the unfinished business, we've already acted on item 1.
Yes.
Okay, unfinished business, item number 2, dissolution agreement with Pinewood Volunteer Fire Department, Inc. I will make a motion on that. I will read the motion. I move that Wayne County accept all of the real personal, tangible, and intangible assets of the Pinewood Volunteer Fire Department Incorporated pursuant to an auction conducted by the Wayne County staff until disposal of, and I'll make that in form of a motion.
That's, it's on one of the fire trucks. It's a consolidated.
The auctions, we should recover most of that money, is that correct?
The other thing to remember is you're getting you have an EMS station in there. And so we're also getting that as part of, the remuneration.
And their bank balance that you're also getting, as of today, is $87,201.40.
And
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bell.
how many vehicles do they have over there,
Bell, do you know, how many of these?
Okay, that's, I'm just wondering.
And the value of the property to be used at EMS station and possibly something else, know what the future's gonna bring, will far exceed their debt.
That's right. Tax value is $167,460. Its location has been certain.
Any other discussion?
I have one
Mr. Gurley.
comment. Reading this morning through my roughly 35 days from Pinewood Fire Department, it's sad to see the dissolution of the fire department. However, it's great to see the current volunteer fire department staff recognize the need in order to be progressive and move forward for Wayne County. So I commend them for that. I have one request for Mr. Wood and staff. If somehow we could continue to recognize Pinewood Fire Department so we won't forget it, outside and inside, some type of form of fashion condition, just out of respect for all the former firemen and the countless hours of volunteers they put in. I think it'd be very special that we could recognize that and continue, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Gurley. Mr. Doherty.
And Mr. Chair, was my concern, and that is that it seems like this is drawing to a close, and we want to make sure the volunteer fire department. I don't know how old that is.
58.
59.
59?
59.
It was chartered in 59. It was
Okay.
actually started in 58.
But I would hope, again, we recognize that fire department by a plaque, some type of a naming, or some way to honor them for their sacrifice.
Thank you. Mr. Bell.
Could you name them an auxiliary fire department or something like that?
Well, at this point, I really don't know whether we could even answer that question or not, Mr. Bell. But certainly,
Yeah, we'll find
we
something.
want to find, I throw this out, I mean, that can be the Pinewood EMS station or whatever. We need to keep that name recognition there for the people in the community, and also for the ones that's listening and watching today. I want to commend the present leaders of the Pinewood Fire Department for making this decision. I know it was very difficult, but the city has annexed, a big part of their district, and their tax base now is difficult for them to operate in manpower. But like some of the other commissioners said, they've done an outstanding job for the last 50 years, 50-plus years. And I commend all of the past members, past leaders, and the present for what they have done to contribute to the safety of the people in that area for Wayne County. Thank you. Mr.
man.
Pate.
And I agree with you, and they did it commended. But I appreciate the fact that the other fire chiefs have stepped up to cover the area, and the public will be taken care of. They don't have to worry about that. And I'm glad it's the brotherhood between the fire departments made that possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, I'll have a motion on the floor. Consent agenda, Mr. Wood?
Mr. Chairman, if you could add farm leases as number 3. That's just.
Okay, I missed it, okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead, take care of that.
We just
please.
need a motion to authorize us to take those 2 properties to auction on December 9th at 3 p.m.
So move.
Have a motion on the floor, any discussion? If none, all in favor show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous. Consent agenda, Mr. Wood.
Mr. Chairman, we went over all of these things briefly. If anybody would like me to go into more detail, I'd be happy to do that on any of these.
Any questions for the consent agenda? If not, all in favor show sign of right hand.
We better.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, Bill. We have a motion on the floor. If not, everyone show sign of right hand. Motion carries. Under new business, all I'm showing is budget amendments.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
The first 3 budget amendments, number 147, 148, and 149, are for the Health Department. Number 147 is for $13,756 to anticipate and appropriate additional funds awarded by the state for healthy communities. Number 148 is for $5,500 to anticipate a decrease in state funds for maternal health and increased in Medicaid funds to cover the reduction. It's just a change in the revenue source for $5,500. Number 149 is to anticipate funds from the Division of Medical Assistance for the implementation of electronic health records for $21,250.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Doherty.
I move approval of Budget Amendment 147, 148, and 149 with the Health Department.
I have a motion on the, can we go ahead and vote on it with one member present, absent?
Yep.
Yes.
Have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries.
The next one is for the jail, and it's $692,500 to appropriate fund balance for 7% of estimated construction costs for misdemeanor jail and for jail transition services, Mosley Architects, $600,500. The 7% is based on the $9 million figure, and $62,500 is for PREA and jail transition services, William Street property. This will be part of the $5 million that's already.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion on the floor that we approve budget amendment number 150. Any discussion?
One comment.
Mr. Pate.
I want to commend our county manager for getting this at 7%. Great work.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other, Mr. Doherty?
You know, working in government is interesting to me. It seems like we are putting consumption that we're assuming that we're going to pay $9 million for this jail facility. And I'm hoping, all hopes, that we can do much better during the bid process.
Right.
So I commend you for the 7%. Now use your magic to get that $9 million.
I did, let me respond to that. Joe makes a good point. I just wanted to reiterate to y'all, we are basing this on, we think, the conservative number. The contract reads that it's 7% of actual construction cost. It starts out being the estimated cost. So that's why Pam is putting in at the $9 million cost. But it will be adjusted up or down depending on what the bids come in at. And the bids should come in lower, as he said today, than what he projected earlier.
And if I could follow up, I think that we do need to make a point here, and that is, I've had several people ask the question, well, why wouldn't you use design build on the jail, since you saved so much money on the Steele Memorial? And I think the answer here is that it's such a specialized type of construction that it really, we need to have an architect that's familiar with it as well as a contractor.
That's exactly right. I would not have recommended to you to use design build on this. Because you know, design build means that a construction company and an architect have to team up on it. And the truth is, there are very few that specialize in jails. And I think y'all can see, most of you have been in at one time or another on some of these meetings. We have gotten an extremely qualified architect on this. And when we went through that selection process, Mosley's probably done about more than a third of the jails in North Carolina, wouldn't you say, John?
Yes.
So I think we've probably got the most experienced architectural firm in the state when it comes to jails. And I think the attention to detail that you've seen, the things they brought to the table, that they pointed out in the tours to you, answered all of our questions on the tours. These guys know jails, and that's what you needed on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. DeVille.
I was just gonna make the same comment that Mr. Woods made. Mosley built the new jail in Greensboro, $110 million jail. And when the final bill came in, it was $100 million. So it was $10 million under.
Now, don't tell Joe that.
I'm looking for a bigger savings than 10%.
You're looking at, what are you looking at, $4 million?
Oh, gracious. Mr. Pate, did you have a comment?
I've already made mine.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? We have a motion on the floor. All in favor of Budget Amendment 150, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
Budget Amendment number 151 is for $4,840 to anticipate and appropriate concealed weapon fees and fingerprint fees for the sheriff.
We have a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? No, if no discussion, all show sign of right hand for Budget Amendment 151. Motion carries unanimous.
Budget Amendment number 153 is to appropriate fund balance at the end of the fiscal year 13-14 for the 14-15 expenditures. This is for the schools, and it is their capital outlay maintenance funds, $600,000. This is a request from the schools.
Pleasure to the board.
I got a question, if we could. Since they didn't spend the 600, could we not get the 600? Maybe we can use it for our payment on the schools or something?
It's restricted for the.
It's restricted.
Y'all looked at me like deer in the headlight. I'm sorry, just trying to joke.
You're making headlines, buddy.
Making headlines?
Yes, sir.
You said you wanted to make some motions on the schools, so.
I move we accept Budget Amendment 153.
I have a motion on the floor. We accept Budget 153 from the school board. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
Budget Amendment number 159 is the walk-on. It is to appropriate funds for engineering and environmental services for the new jail facility and to appropriate funds for a Phase 2 study on the existing William Street facility, $30,190.
Pleasure to the board.
Let me just comment on that is, our contract with Mosley does not include engineering services. Those are separate and outside of that contract. So that's why we're doing this.
Good. Phase 2, could you clarify that?
That is that like asbestos?
Yeah, whatever you find in Phase 1, you follow up with in Phase 2 in more detail. We're not anticipating any major issues with it.
I guess my question, you're talking about the William Street property, old
Yeah.
Mason's building.
That's right.
It's my understanding that had already been conducted in years prior to this.
I think what we had was, where's Milford?
He left.
We had Milford check on that. There was one that he brought up that had been done, or he thought had been done. He's checking into that.
I would really investigate that thoroughly, because I
Yeah.
think actually it's been done twice.
Okay.
Well, and that's, we're talking about a study of the building itself on asbestos.
Yes.
Is that correct? Yeah, I mean, we've been told that
Well,
that's.
if we've done it, then obviously we won't.
And I'll get with you
sign a
afterwards
contract
about
on
the two
that.
firms that.
Yeah,
did it.
let's do that, if you don't.
You even
mind.
know the name of the firms?
Sure.
Man, you gotta commit.
He's been around a long time.
Oh, yes.
You gotta remember what his previous job was.
That's right.
Okay.
Any other discussion on Budget Amendment 159?
So the only discussion is if we don't need it, then
Then we won't pay for it.
then you won't.
We don't.
No, we'll just, but go ahead and approve
Contingent.
this, and then if we don't need it, it'll go to fund balance, or we'll come back with an amendment.
Okay.
Just a comment, also, the amount that I had for the Phase Two study is only $1,250.
Joe, if you'll give me those names.
I will.
Do I have a motion?
Somebody made a motion. I'll make it. Let's accept budget amendment number 159.
Have a motion on the floor, we accept Budget Amendment 159. Any other discussion? If no other discussion, all in favor show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
That concludes the budget amendment.
County Manager's comments, report.
Mr. Chairman, I know we're pushed for time. I'm just going to go over a few things briefly. Now, most of this is already news, but just to reiterate, our WCDA new director starts work December 1. Our new Assistant County Manager, Tommy Burns, starts work December the 2nd. And we're advertising right now on the HR director. So we're moving forward with that. And the only other thing I wanted to mention to you is that Pam and I are working on some reallocations and changes in the Eastern Region funds. So we'll be coming back to you with some revisions on that. Part of that has to do with Eureka, and part of it has to do with us and what we're using the money for on some things. And I want to try to move some of that money over to cover some of our sewer costs, given that the Genoa project, we had to come up with the money to make that change and go with the force main there. So we'll be looking at all of that and come back to you with a recommendation on that. And the one other thing is just to remind everybody that we'll have a special session on Monday, December 1 at 4:30 p.m. and that'll be to swear in Ed Cromartie and Joe Gurley as members of the Wayne County Board of Commissioners following their election. So we'll do that 4:30 on Monday, and then when we come to the meeting on Tuesday, they're already sworn in and taken care of. And there'll also be was there anything else with that? Okay.
We're not gonna have a reception thereafter?
We'll make it quick and painless.
Okay.
Very conservative.
I got news for you. Painless is not part of it.
Okay.
That's all I've got, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Board of Commissioners Committee reports and comments. Mr. Gurley?
Yeah, mainly, and most of y'all want to mention as well, is all the veterans activities going on this month, because it is that time of the year. And out of respect, I still want to mention it, along with you, Mr. Chairman, we and Mr. Wood, we attended the Veterans Memorial Unveiling at Mount Olive on November 10th. It was very well attended. I thought it was a big crowd, a very nice looking monument, certainly a good tribute to our veterans. That same day, last week, we attended the Veterans Memorial Service. And that Wayne Community College, that was an inaugural event, and had a great crowd, and of course, a great tribute to all the veterans. And of course, lastly on the veterans, we attended the Veterans Day Parade, and a lot of participation in the parade, and had a very, very large crowd as well. And lastly, Mr. Chairman, the Animal Control Advisory Committee met last week, and in the near future will be coming before us to give us an update. And along with that will be some short-term and long-term goals they're initiating. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
I missed all the veterans parades because I was sick and still got a little bit, but I was able to attend the cemetery groundbreaking and that was a good thing for Wayne County. We've been working on this, and of course, Bill Pate, Andy Anderson, in particular, had a lot to do with this. And this cemetery not only provides a final resting place for our veterans, and their family, but it also, at the same time, protects the flight path to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. So we got, when this first phase opens up, we're gonna see some increased revenue here in Wayne County. I had a WCDA board meeting. We had an audit that was done by Nunn Brashear. The audit finding was good. Matter of fact, if I remember correctly, there was no findings. Is that right? So that means that the Wayne County Development Alliance and the staff are doing things correctly. And of course, following that, we had a meet and greet session for our new WCDA president, Crystal Geddes, and she, as Mr. Woods said, she will be here December 1st. Attended also the North Carolina Eastern Alliance Board meeting in Kinston. As you know, the NC East Alliance is the nonprofit that's an offspring from the Eastern region, where we were able to borrow and to receive monies from, that Mr. Wood was talking about. There were 3 new board members elected to go on the Alliance Board. Todd Hickey from Vidant Health, Ron Mitchelson from East Carolina University, and Martin Johnson from the Beaufort County Economic Development. So the Alliance is making progress, and one of the things that was encouraging is that on our financial statement, the Alliance is actually in good shape financially and is under budget for this year on their spending. So they're really, really tightening their belt, trying to make this work, but yet give the services to the membering counties. I guess the highlight of the week was this past Saturday. I attended the 4-H Rotary Raptors Team 3737 open house. This is the group that builds the robots, and I actually put a video on Facebook on one of these robots, the newest one they built. But there's about 25 or so young people that are involved in this. This started out about 5 years ago, I understand, with like 5 people. Now there are 25 or so. It gives you a new lease on life as an older person such as myself, to see our young people step up and do what these young people are doing. The talent and the time that they're putting into these projects is unbelievable. But you know, they got some really good leadership over there too, that's mentoring and working for this Rotary Raptors. The last thing I want to report on is that the petition signing for the 6 lighting districts that the commissioners formed a month or so ago is going well. We do have 2 districts that did not get their 2/3 needed, and that was Lighting District 3, which was Pineview, Tarkland, and Perkins Road, and also Light District 6, which was Salem Church Road and Buck Swamp Road. We knew that these areas, especially District 6, may be, we just put it out there just to see if the property owners wanted to sign up, but all these lights are located on the main road, so they're not inside of a subdivision. The remaining 4 lighting districts, I've been keeping in touch with the representatives, and they're continuing to contact property owners. I did not realize that, I guess most people do work, because these people are trying to get in touch with them. You know, they're having a hard time in a lot of cases finding them at home, you know. So But overall, it's going well, and I think the 4 remaining lighting districts that we have, it looks like initially that they're going to be positive. So just a report on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Mr. Doherty.
Just a quick comment, and that is that I, too, enjoyed the Veterans Day parade and witnessing, honoring our veterans. But also I want to point out that sometimes in the mundane task of this board and going through budget amendment after budget amendment, sometimes we say, is that really necessary? I think just a moment ago shows why it is necessary. And that is that just having some fresh eyes look at a budget amendment and say, hey, wait a minute, maybe we've already done that, or maybe there's already a report in place, and it could very likely save $30,000, which doesn't sound like a lot, but again, I think that's our job, and that is to oversee and make sure we save every dollar that we can. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Cromartie.
Well, I'd like to just first thank the public for coming out to vote on vote day. I think it was a good showing. Sound like the percent over North Carolina was a little up from previous times, so that's a good sign that the American institution is in good shape. And I just wanted to say that to the public and say thank you. Also, we had an opportunity to go to the same events for the veterans. I'd like to do a little special holler for Mount Olive. Ray McDonald and the committee down there did a fantastic job over the last couple of years of putting the Veterans Memorial Park in place. It's right across from the library. It's maybe you'll all see that this afternoon. It's just a fantastic way. And every child that goes in to see the library, either going in or coming out, they'll be able to see that. And I think it was a very well placed opportunity. Mount Olive, as it often does, rose to the occasion. My understanding is it's all volunteer money. No taxpayer money had to be involved, so Ray McDonald did a great job with that. I'm going to save what I would like to do is my last report from the East Carolina Council to our next meeting, because I don't want to take up the time it takes to talk about that. And I have a brochure that I'm going to share with you all and some items that was discussed with us, but that's not for today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Page.
Thank you. Well, I attended the veterans events like everybody else. I wasn't able to go to Mount Olive because I was at a different veterans event where a number of people received awards from the Purple Heart group and for service to veterans. So I was at that. That's why I was unable to make the Mount Olive. And I also attended the 239th Marine Corps birthday at Shamrock that our Vic Miller put together. And he had a number of Marines that came in from all the eastern part of the state. And they cut the cake, gave, the oldest veteran and the youngest. And it was a good event. And they're going to try to do that every year. Of course, the parade was great. He's already talked about WCDA. The 4-H Robotics open house, don't let you, Ray kid you, he was there recruiting talents what he was doing. He was like a kid in a candy store. But it was really funny because we were talking to one of the young men there, and he says, well, how are things doing? Are they improved? Well, now we got a bunch of girls in the class. This really made things a lot better. So to go to that point, they're going to try to get everybody involved, and a third of them are female in a part of that now. It used to be all male. But it was exciting to watch those kids and how excited they were and what they were doing. Seven Springs Parade Saturday, be there. We got a sleigh out, so 11 positions I understand. And I don't know who all was going, but I'll be at the Carl Best group on Saturday night as well. Met yesterday with the Works group, and they've been working very closely with the school system all along. And if you don't know, all the career readiness certificates, the juniors of every high school are tested each year, and those who don't do as well want to be retested. They do it as seniors. And that's just one part of what they're doing, because you got to go further than that. You can identify with those career readiness certificates sort of how you would do in whatever field. But there's another important part, and Southern Wayne is working together with the community college as a pilot program. And I talked to
Commissioner Ed here about this earlier. To go further than just that, the employer community, and this goes back to my old job, the lack of soft skills, and what I mean by that, the ability to show up on time, to dress well, how to interview, communication with your other workers, and those kind of things are so vital. You might be and Ray might be the best machinist in the group, but if you lay out every Friday, you're not going to be there. So we've got to instill, and this came up earlier, our young kids have got to understand what they've got to have to make it in the business world. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bailey, thank you. Mr. Bailey.
Mr. Chairman, I attended East Point and also the juvenile justice, but I don't have a report because we didn't talk about too much at those two meetings, the last meeting. But there's one thing I'd like to say at that report that I gave a little bit earlier about the 12 prisons being closed and all that. I want to send each one of you a copy of that report that I got, so I'll email it to you, so you can see that information. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. I'll keep mine brief because most of the events that I attended has already been mentioned. I could not make everything, and I do want to thank the commissioners that did cover some of those events. I thank you because it's been a busy month. So thank y'all for covering what I couldn't cover. I would like to, it's already been mentioned, but I'd like to mention the groundbreaking for the State Veterans Cemetery. Had a great turnout. This was even though the county did purchase the land and gave it to the state, the groundbreaking ceremony was conducted by the state. We were invited. I want to thank the commissioners that did go. Mr. Bell had a conflict, so he couldn't. But I do want to thank the other commissioners. Had a great turnout, good program. And I'd also like to publicly thank Mr. Pate for his work on it. But even more so, former Commissioner Andy Anderson. He started on this project in 2004. And as all of you know, when Andy gets on a project, he doesn't turn loose. So with the help of Mr. Pate and Mr. Anderson and a lot of other behind-the-scene people, this cemetery is going to be a reality. I mean, it's going to happen. Also, Veterans Day, I attended the Mount Olive ceremony in the Wayne community. The Veteran Day Parade, great turnout. Weather was good, a whole lot better than last year. But the highlight of the parade was when one of the little Girl Scout troops stopped in front of the podium where we were sitting. Some of the others had stopped, but this one stopped, nothing announced. And one of the little girls in that troop, her dad that had been deployed for 8 months, she did not know that he was home, and he jumped off the stage and went down, and the expression on that child's face was priceless. I mean, it was like a deer in the headlights. She would got away with, she was speechless. And that was the highlight of the parade.
I doubt there was a dry eye in the crowd.
There was not, I mean, we all had tears running down our cheek because that was special. Also, I went to the Reef Land at the memorial here after the parade. Also, this past Friday, I had the honor of going out to the base and witnessed the Razor Talon exercise that some of y'all had been to earlier. We got some amazing young people out at the base. It's amazing some of the things that they are doing. This exercise actually had 38 planes involved from 5 or 6 bases. And see some of the things that they're capable of doing, it makes me even more prouder of our people in uniform, especially Seymour Johnson. But this was a joint effort. This was the Air Force and Marine Corps working together on this one, and it's can't say but so much about it, but it's amazing what those young people can do. Also, it's been mentioned to just keep a check on your calendars for the upcoming parades and the other events, because there's a lot going on night meetings. The holidays are coming up, and we were invited to a lot of things, and we're not going to be able to attend all of them, but the ones that you can attend, I would appreciate it. And that's all I have. Anyone else have anything?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion on the floor.
Because we're going down to the library.
We're not, okay, we're just gonna recess and go down.
Recess, okay.
We like recess.
We are in recess.
Play a recess.
Does that mean we gotta come back?
No, we're just going to adjourn.
We're gonna adjourn there?